Hi, I'm Jack Stein and I'd like to welcome you to the Virtual Food Market. Now this is an add-on to the Virtual Food Festival and it's essentially our e-commerce site. What we're going to do here is we're going to collate the best of Cornish produce into some boxes which I'm going to show you how to cook, and then we can get them delivered direct to your home. So this is our pork box on the Virtual Food Market, and the star of the show here is this wonderful rare breed pork chop from Primrose Herd in Redroof. Best pork in the country for me, and they're lovely people to work with. They work with a lot of different rare breeds and really good husbandry, so that's fantastic. And then we've got, to go with that, we've got the new potatoes from the south coast of Cornwall, bang in season, sweet as a nut, best potatoes in the world. Don't care what Jersey say. And then we've got this mustard. Now this mustard here is Grumpy's Old Man's Mustard, and it's from Coverack in Cornwall, and this is really something, really special mustard. It's called Old Man's Mustard because it's the way mustard used to be back in the day, proper. And to go with that, we've got some spring greens from down West Cornwall. Nice, good value, really healthy, good, easy to cook. Some salted Trewithen Farm butter, some Cornish sea salt and pepper mix from Cornish Sea Salt, which people may know, some shallots here from Foy, and also from Foy this cider vinegar, my favourite type of vinegar in the world, and then probably not really necessarily Cornish, but it's olive oil, but it's pressed by Foy Valley, and the olives all come from his mum's estate in Italy. So that's our pork box. Click the link to buy it and I'll show you how to cook it. So now I'm going to show you how to cook these wonderful Cornish new potatoes, and these are very simple tips, but honestly they're revolutionary. So most important thing with a new potato, the skin is so thin, but there's a lot of flavour in it, so you don't want to peel them like you would peel a roast potato. What you want to do is just pop them in some water and give them a good rub, like that, just to clean off any mud. But you want to keep those bits of skin still on there because they're vitally important, because if you've ever eaten a jacket potato, all the flavour of the potato is in the skin itself, so that's where all this wonderful flavour comes from. So just like that, look at that. You can tell it's good quality product because it's not perfectly shaped, it's a bit knobbly. And into cold water, just do a couple of them. And then the second most important tip when cooking potatoes, any potato, you put it in cold water and you bring it up to the heat. But really, the most important tip is you have to season it well. So I've got some Cornish sea salt here. I'm going to put quite a bit in there. So people say about chefs, we're just home cooks that know how to season correctly. We're going to bring them up to the boil quickly, and then once they come up to the boil, we're going to reduce them right down. So you want them to just bubble really gently, because if you boil them, the outside of the potato will be overcooked and the inside will be still a bit undercooked. You get this kind of weird texture. So bring them up, once you see them boiling, drop them down, and for this there's about 400 grams of potatoes in there. It's going to take about 20 minutes. So here we go, the pork chops, these wonderful pork chops. Look at that, the big thick layer of fat there. So I'm going to do two at a time here, and I'm just going to rub them with a bit of this olive oil from Foy Valley, like so, and then season them with the Cornish sea salt and pepper. And then I'm going to start them in the pan on the skin side down, because I want to render that fat and get that lovely and crispy. Then put that into a dry pan, like so, on a medium heat. Put all four, if you want to do this for a family of four, you can put all four, but I'm just going to do it for two, just here, to be a bit quicker. And just want to let that sit there and render away. Here we go, spring greens. I love spring greens. This is like, people love asparagus, and I do love asparagus in the springtime, but for me, spring greens, they're just so healthy, so lovely. You can do so many different things with them. First thing you need to do, I've already washed these, but is to take out this kind of middle part here. That's not so bagoose, that's a bit hard. And like so. And then, show you another one. Again, just take the vein and the stem out. You can actually pickle the stems, they're actually quite nice. A lot of brassicas, a lot of cabbages, with the hard bits that you don't want to eat. If you pickle them in just like a vinegar, salt, and sugar solution, they can be very delicious if you don't want to waste those parts. And then we'll wrap them up like so. This is a really good tip whenever you're chopping anything like herbs or anything, is to wrap them all up as tight as you can get them, because then when you actually do come to chop them, it's like that. They're all nicely packaged, and they'll just all be nice and even, like so. That's your spring greens there. Lovely. So there you go, the skin's starting to brown up nicely. Now I'm just going to pop them down like so. With meat, especially pork and steak, people think you should not serve pork pink, but with really good high quality pork like this, it can be a bit rose, so like 62, 63 degrees. I wouldn't go for a rare, like a 55 degrees, but you can serve it a bit pink. With pork, and with any meat, steaks and things like that, just keep flipping them every 15 seconds, like so. And then, big chef tip, butter, good and salted butter. So in a sec we'll whack that in and start to baste it. Again, flip over. And the reason you do this is if you just cook a steak on one side, or a pork steak on one side, and then you let it cook for a couple of minutes and then flip it, you get really overcooked on either side, but the middle is all uneven. This gives a nice even heat to it. So like it's in an oven, because it's got heat on both sides. Add a rather large knob of butter. But again, this is going to add a lot of flavour and a lot of nuttiness to the meat. It's also going to help me cook it. See, I can start to baste the meat and cook the thicker parts with the butter. So this butter, as it's starting to foam like this, is at about 120 degrees centigrade. And then as it starts to go brown, it gets to about 150 degrees centigrade. So I've got myself a little controllable oven here, which I'm just going to use for space. And then I'm going to flip these over. You can actually almost get a ladle and start to baste it. There's that much butter in there. The most important thing about these Cornish products, these kind of rare breed pigs, the things that you'll see in the virtual food market, these aren't supermarket kind of ingredients. These are real high quality ingredients, and you will get differences in size. So if you look, this one here is a bit thicker around the bone there, around the chop. This one's a bit thinner, so I'm expecting this to cook more quickly than this. This is a couple of minutes ahead. So this one's a couple of minutes ahead. So just bear that in mind. It's just, we don't want things to be uniform, because proper animals that have led proper lives, they are a bit knobbly. They're a bit kind of, they're different shapes. We're not supermarket spec, because if you don't eat all of the animal, then what's the point? So with the boxes we're doing, we're going to start off with the chops, and then we're going to start using some other parts of the animal, because you can't just eat chops all the time. You want to eat the belly, you want to eat the neck, you want to eat the collar, you want to eat the head. I mean, pork head, there's some amazing old English ingredients, things like brawn and things like that, where you sort of pop the head and it's delicious. So things like that we'll be adding to our site in time to come. You can see this butter is now lovely and golden and nutty. So these have been cooking for 4 or 5 minutes. I'm just going to give them a bit of a probe, just to see where we're at. So 32 degrees on that one. Putting it in the thickest part, so that's going to take longer to cook. And we've got 48 on that one. So that one's actually coming along nice and fast. Again, if you don't want to do this in a pan and you don't have a probe, I suggest you just sear them off to give them some colour, render that fat down, and then pop them in the oven at about 200 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes. So, about another minute to go. So that's reading 62, so I'm going to let them rest now. So right, now what I'm going to do here, turn that heat off. I'm just going to get rid of some of that fat, but I want to leave all that kind of brown flavour in the bottom, because I'm going to use that for a hot vinaigrette to go with my spring greens. I'm going to chop a little bit of shallot while that meat's resting. The thing with the spring greens, you want to cook them last minute. Like with any brassica or cabbage, you want to keep it really nice and firm, and don't overcook it, because once you overcook it, that's where you get those horrible kind of sulphury, cabbagey notes, which no one really wants. So you want to leave it to the very, very last minute. Shallots are fantastic, and they'll be in the box because they're way better than onions. All chefs use them. It's basically, like Anthony Bourdain said, it's the thing that separates chefs from home cooks, apart from the ability to season correctly. So there's your shallot. So I've got my pan there. Turn that pan on. So This pan has got all the lovely roasting juices, bits of pork fat in there. I'm just going to add my shallots in there. Then a nice dollop of this wonderful grumpy mustard. And then splash of the foil olive oil. A bit of not Cornish soy sauce. And finally the cider vinegar. Add the spring greens. That's it. So they're cooking there in the pork fat. You know, lovely. You're not wasting anything here. Keeping all that flavour in the pan. Beautiful. So the pork's been resting for about 5 minutes. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a slice. So I'm going to take this bottom bone off here, like so, and then I'm just going to slice it like that. You can feel that lovely crackling skin. See, it's a tiny bit, not pink, but it's not overcooked, you know. It's still got a little bit of colour, a little bit of give in there. And then we will season that again with a mix. And then here I've actually put the new potatoes on the side, spring greens. You know, through the season you can adapt this recipe really easily. So, you know, you might want to use pointed cabbage, or you might want to use, you know, broccoli, or any green really, any green vegetable. And then a lovely dollop of that wonderful Cornish grumpy mustard. So there we go. So you have spring greens cooked in pork fat with some mustard, a lovely pork chop from Primrose Herd, and these wonderful new potatoes cooked in a butter emulsion. Very simple, easy to do. So all you need to do now is fry the peppers.